Gentlewoman, yield back?
Yes, I yield back.
Yeah. I now recognize the gentleman from California for 5 minutes, Congressman Bilbray.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, first of all, congratulations. I'm glad to see a fellow classmate serving the nation in a different set, but I can't think of a better choice that the President could have made, and so I'm glad to see you there.
Thank you.
I happen to drive one of these vehicles, hopefully safely, and we'll correct whatever we need to do. But in San Diego, we ended up having this incident where a highway patrolman driving his wife, his child, and his brother-in-law ended up basically dying because of the MAT issue. When I look down at this list, I'm wondering, though, from a observation from a distance, that could have the reputation of Toyota actually been a contributing factor in how this process was handled. Some may not know, but Toyota is ranked at the absolute top, second only maybe to Mercedes and Porsche for satisfaction, for reputation. And I guess if you drive a Porsche, you darn well better be happy with the vehicle if you've paid for it. But is it possible that in this process, the great reputation of dependability and safety that Toyota has created over the last 30 years created a inadvertent prejudice against more strict review, because everybody always assumed in the last 20 years, and let me just stop and say, 10 years from now, 10 years ago, if you and I would have said we would be here talking about Toyota, most of us would have said you're crazy. Hugo, maybe. You might have been talking about General Motors, but we never would have thought it would have been Toyota. Could have that inherent institutional prejudice, and I'm not saying just to the agency, but to society as a whole, could have we created a situation to where maybe there wasn't as critical review up front on Toyota that might have been done if it was a Hugo or if it was General Motors?
Well, not in my opinion, Mr. Bilbray. I've been in this job 13 months. I've worked with the people at NHTSA. They're a lot. Almost all of them are career people. They take their jobs very seriously because it does involve safety, and I don't think that's the case.
Okay, I appreciate that. In 2007, there was an investigation conducted about the MATs. It appeared that investigation, or the outcome of that investigation, didn't reflect what we now believe should have been the proper observation. It wasn't until the deaths in my county and Darrell Issa's county that it really raised the concern last year when we had the crash again with the MATs again showing up. How do we have this investigation 07 review all of these models, pull back on a lot of models, and then still end up with a situation to where by 09 people are dying in the streets of San Diego County?
Well, it's obvious that to us that when that crash occurred, that highlighted again the floor mat problem. That was determined to be what caused the accident, and that was the issue. And we also, looking back, realized that people really weren't taking their cars in that had floor mat problems, and so we re-engaged Toyota to ask for another mailing to their customers so that they could bring them in and have the floor mats replaced. And then that led to the investigation of the sticky pedal and the result of the determination that needed to be fixed also.
Well, in all fairness, Mr. Secretary, when we talk about the floor mat issue, we're talking about the all-weather mat, and we're talking about, in this case, in San Diego's deaths, it was not an owner who didn't bring it in. This was actually a dealership vehicle that still had the mats in place. And so there seems to be a big disconnect between what we said we wanted done and what was actually down in the field. And I think that, in all fairness, this one shows that it wasn't just the fact that those of us who drive Toyotas didn't take the recall notice seriously. Frankly, I wasn't even aware as a consumer that the all-weather was specifically targeted here until I, as a member of this committee, know that. Doesn't that tell you that we have a major gap between the way the system ought to work and the way it's actually working?
I would admit that there is a disconnect sometimes between whether people get the information and whether they take it seriously and how it's disseminated. I think that's an issue. I agree with that.
Thank you.
Gentleman's time is